You still there?
Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What
I
happened?
think
Tell me what just happened.
it started to count down. It was like 6, 5,
Yeah,
4.
because I just hit record.
Oh,
To
okay.
practice and see if we can get like a soundbite to put on to
Right.
preview our show, and maybe this conversation we can. I'm gonna try to figure out how to like preview shows with sound bites. Does that make sense?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you were
Yeah,
saying that the echo is a feedback problem, right?
yeah, I think it's just a feedback from the mic and the sound. So that would be my guess as to why you're getting echo is because you're not isolated between talk and listen.
Sure.
So I mean, I would
And that would be
think,
the same true for the guest, correct? Like if
yeah,
Hannah on the other end
right,
was just talking into her laptop the same way I was, then she was going to get
right.
feedback on her end. So to make it maybe work, so like you have a microphone on your little earbuds there.
Yeah. I just got a mic, and then yeah, exactly. And I have a set for my laptop too. So if you wanted to try to isolate out where the echo is coming from, I mean, I could do the laptop with my microphone and earbuds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you sound great. On mine, I mean, well, great's relative. But no, I mean, I have no issues on my end. So, yeah, I think that's all it is. Because yeah, I think it's just the hearing side of it. So yeah, so when you did it with Hannah, you guys weren't in the same location,
No, she was home and I was home.
and you.
And
what did
so
you?
right.
So she did. Was she? You were both on phones or both on laptops?
But I think we were both on laptops. I was on my laptop for sure.
And both just talking into the laptop. No earbuds or no mic.
Nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where the problem was, man. Like, because that makes sense to me. Like, it's because your mic is picking up, or the audible mic is picking up this. It's basically picking up the other person talking, and then it's turning around and sending it back out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So if you can't isolate it out,
and the echo is probably a delay in like getting what I said to her is now delayed in what she's saying to me. Now in other like infant episodes, I would use one microphone, set it between the two of us, and we would both have headsets.
Right.
And that usually wasn't an issue.
Right.
It was only an issue if I was going through that laptop. The laptop audio was very low, but if I did it through my phone, so if I found a way to just use my phone as the whatever you want to call it, modem or whatever.
Yeah.
And both of us were talking on microphones with headphones through the phone. It worked just fine. So I have yet to figure out what magic I need to do with that laptop to make a really good show from beginning to end with quality audio and quality of video and sound effects. But I think I'm getting closer. Not just the top notch. That's what I want to get to.
I mean, the next, get the Bluetooth headphones and then get the neon sign back behind you, like in your studio, the shift change, change, and then you'll start doing your reads. Hey, today's episode is sponsored by Busch Light,
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
Right. But no, I think that's probably your problem, man. I think it's I think headphones and microphone it would solve your problem, no matter what form.
Do you think?
I mean, honestly, I think the phone is.
Yeah, and better. I don't understand.
How you feeling?
Today's a little different. Today's a little different day, man. Like I was feeling real good yesterday, and today I've kind of suffered a little setback, I think, but for the most part, fine. Like I'm not disabled.
Setback from was overdoing it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, man. Like it's a fine line between trying to survive in a house full of viewers and then trying to recover. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
for the most part, okay. Let's see what I can do.
So on my screen, I've got a red dot with a percent, like a 99%.
Okay.
So does that? I assume that has to do with like the buffering. It has to do with the amount of capacity that the podcast has. Like as long as you're high up, it's saying that you're not going to get like any skips or anything, and then it kind of adjusts as. I assume that's what that is.
I don't know, but here's what I just put my earbuds on, and it connected to my phone right away. So
Yep.
instead of maybe so let's do this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I can hear you too, and
Yeah.
I got my microphone on.
Yeah, you sound great. Oh,
So now you're back in.
yeah.
So now you're back in my ears,
Yep.
and you can hear me fine.
Yeah, I would say your sound quality is a little less, but still it's a little bit more muffled, just a little bit. But I mean, still obviously you can hear you.
And so you
Right.
kind of the growing pains of it, which is when you're a Gen Xer like me, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and like you're
Struggling.
really because you're over 40, aren't you? You're over
Yeah, I'm almost 50, dude.
like how close?
47. 47.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
definitely on that. You're definitely sniffing it.
Yeah, but I like to
But
think, I like to hang out with the kids, so I feel like I'm pretty young at heart. I know the
still wearing your
lingo.
hat backwards. Still wearing your
Still,
hat
yeah.
backwards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm
I'll be
slowly, I've
50
noticed,
and
yeah. Go ahead.
slowly what?
Oh, just with the newer med crew members getting younger and younger, I'm slowly turning into that old grumpy guy. Like back in my day, you know, I've noticed it.
Yeah, it's interesting though, but there's some like coolness about that too.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that lately about me. I'll be 50 in September. Uh, in my 22-year EMS career, I've been flying for 15 of it, right? And when you say it that way, it's like, and I look back at it, it's hard to
No,
believe,
yeah.
it's hard to
Yeah.
fathom, but there's a lot of like cool shit that comes with that,
Yeah.
right? Like I haven't seen it all or done it all, but man, there's a lot we've done a lot of cool stuff in our day, and there's a sense of contentment that you go to work knowing that there's things that and that others are going to figure out, and if they want to know too, be happy to share it. My whole 15-year journey or career is not for me to keep by myself, it's for me to share, it's for me to give away, right? Like so that when I'm
Sure.
gone, people can come in behind me and kind of carry the legacy, whatever we think it to be. um, which is a lot of what this podcast project is if I were to die tomorrow and keep 20 years of EMS lessons learned, right, on how to navigate this career to myself, like I didn't do anything for anybody that wanted to do this. Same with anybody who got like sober after being an alcoholic, right? Like their recovery to sobriety isn't for theirs to keep. Like it should be shared so that other people can try to figure out their own way. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
when you get to a certain age, I don't know about you, man, but there's a certain it's not I wouldn't say it's a comfort. It's not a comfort. I'm never comfortable when I go to work. But there's a certain satisfying that I've survived this long and we've done a lot of good with a lot of different people. Does that make sense? Like there's a satisfaction involved. I don't know how you feel, but because you've been in the game a long time now too, yeah.
Yeah, 15, it'll be 15, flying for 15 in December. And then, I worked the ground for 10 years before that. But
As a firefighter, right?
yeah, yeah, firefighter EMT. Yeah. Um, yeah. Now, so hey, quick sidebar time. Are
Yeah, sure.
you're gonna go back and play this just to kind of hear the sound quality, just to see.
Yeah, I think so. We can either cut it as a practice test and like do a real show someday, or we can just gamble and
Yeah,
just
because
do a show right now.
and I'll be curious to see
Unless
what
you
you
want to
think.
change your shirt.
No, no, I don't. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what you think of your sound quality. As far as listening back to it.
Okay.
But just as a sidebar, I'd be curious when you swap to the earbuds, what you think of how you sound. You know?
You sound obviously closer to me because you're right in my ear. Uh, I sound like I normally sound.
Yeah, you
Like I
just
don't.
sound. Like I can hear your dog barking in the background a little bit. Like I can hear a little bit of background noise. Not
Well,
much.
if I was on those fuzzy mics, that it would be like the dog
Right.
was right here. Yeah,
Oh,
basically the
okay.
dog wants in.
Right.
So yeah, so those
Right.
fuzzy mic things that just sit right here, catch it all.
Right.
But there's also a software thing that says, um, cut out background noise or whatever. And so like because I do that, I roll with the free version, right? There's two features I can use. One is normalize the audio from start to finish, The other one is like cut out background noise. And then there's like paid features where we could cut out like filler words like and
Sure.
we can fill in dead space if there happens to be a dead space thing. Um, and all of that's with a paid subscription. But
Yeah.
I haven't had any problems with it yet.
Yeah. So what? So have you? So I mean, I assume you kind of look at your stats every episode as far as like downloads and I.
You'd be surprised at how little. I'm kind of trying to, from a business point, it's smart, right? Like you really need to know who your listeners are and where they're from. And I think just by by being a voyeur through that, I kind of get that I have about 75 listeners a week per episode. Obviously, some episodes are hot and some are just like, yeah, like, um, and so those to me seem to be like consistent listeners, right, of the show. But it can be a double-edged sword too, because if you look at it and you go, God, man, it's kind of like likes on Facebook. Remember when we used to have
Oh
Facebook? You
yeah.
probably still
Yeah.
do. But it would be like, man, I post something and then like Joel hasn't liked it yet. And you're like, what
Yeah.
is Joel waiting on? I'm
Right.
totally making fun of him on Facebook here. And
Right.
then you're like, man, that post didn't really gain a lot of traction. So I don't, so your ego kind of takes a hit with it a little bit too when you're like, man, nobody really liked that episode about being an occupational athlete, huh? That surprises me.
Yeah.
Uh, and so you kind of gotta gauge interest on that, but at the same time, do you let who do you let dictate your content? Because if you let the internet dictate your content, what's the internet want to hear? The internet wants to hear you shit talk the fire service as a paramedic
Right.
because it's cool. So why not do it on right? The
Right.
same thing. The same thing. The reason why these 24-hour news outlets get so many views is because like if they showed rainbows and puppy dogs every day, they're a product of their content too. The reason why they put all this doomsday stuff on the TV is because people tune into it, right?
Right.
And so trying to find things that I have experienced through EMS that we talked about, maybe you and I together uh, at Shift Change or in the trailer about, being dudes in EMS or trying to handle sleep deprivation or really trying to navigate the changing industry on how the business model of our industry has changed and how that reflects our personal, morals and how we do our business. Um, I think that's the stuff that that people really are interested in. So I don't know how to drive content. Basically, is what I'm saying. I think if you let it in the hands of the algorithms, I don't know that doing the right thing and trying to, I don't know that that market is that. So that the fact that my niche is very small doesn't bother me. Is the point of that? Could I get 300 listeners a week if I shit talk? Maybe,
Right.
but I like those 75 listeners that are
Right.
interested in the fact that maybe there are lessons to be learned in our little reality, meaning Central Iowa, the Midwest. You're right, like so.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my point, I guess. And so I try not to let it dictate. Oh my God, only got like. I mean, I gotta step it up a notch, right? I gotta really get some earbuds and a microphone and maybe say something shocking and controversial to get more views on my social media page, which is another thing. I didn't realize how it worked. I figured if I posted something every day, eventually I'd work myself into your algorithm to the point where now I'm very high up in your thing. And I don't think that's true at all because it's interaction that drives that. So if I put in a short reel of you and I talking right now and people view that reel, that's interaction, not necessarily a like or a comment. It's, did you see my reel? And if you see my reel, now my
Right.
channel is now higher up in your algorithm. And I think that's how I get um, the promotional benefit of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I was just kind of I feel like I'm inquisitive by nature, and it's like when I talk to you about doing a pod, it's like, well, what like do am I like it's like kind of like that imposter syndrome. Like, why does anybody want to listen to me? Like, what do I have to say?
Yeah.
What But then I thought, well, so what do you want to talk about? What if if I was doing a podcast, what are topics that I'd be interested in, or what is my audience interested in? And I don't know, it just started to kind of snowball into, what. And I've listened to probably most of your podcasts, and they're all really good, but there have been a couple where I'm like, I'll catch this one when I have a minute. But then there's some where I'm like, absolutely, like I'm catching this one hot
Good.
off the press. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to me, like, Joel Pilot, like what does anybody really care? Or what could I say that I feel like would offer some value, or um, to your audience, I guess, if you will. And it's just interesting. I was kind of like, well, I wonder what Jason's thoughts are on it. And
Well, I think two things. I think for one, being in that, obviously you come from a firefighter EMS background in a busy, like urban department, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm sure we can say it out loud. Like, you work in Omaha. Like, Omaha is not. I don't know how many calls you ran here. How many calls you ran here?
Well,
Aren't EMS calls.
so Omaha's a lot like Des Moines. You have Des Moines, and then you have all the suburban surroundings. So I wasn't on Omaha, but I was on like a Urbandale. But we were a shift of 6 guys, and we were doing, I don't remember, 1,200, 1,300, combined EMS fire. But just out of our shift. So, we ran, yeah, just depending on how the makeup was, one medic unit or 2 medic units, and just did everything in the district. But then when I moved to Washington, I was on a department that had, I don't remember, I think 15,000 calls a year, 5 or 6 medic units and 5 or 6 stations. So, I mean, and that was, 5 years of my life. So, kind of a different setup out there, but yeah,
Were the
running.
shift lengths different?
So in Nebraska we did the 24s. I mean, they're 24s, but it was, the only difference was your time off. In Washington I did 24/48s basically. So 1 on 2 off, and then in Omaha we did the modified Detroit, which is like 1 on 1 off, 1 on 1 off. You do that for like 8 days, and then you get 6 off. So, you
Holy
know,
smoke!
yeah, I think a lot of places are leaving that, because that just smokes you.
Well, I've never heard
Uh,
of it. The West Des Moines Fire guys, they do a California swing, and so that's on, off, on, and then I think four off.
right, right, and that's basically, this was it.
So
This was just a longer time span, but
longer
yeah, same.
version of it. I didn't
Yeah,
even know that
yep,
thing existed. So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you were to talk about, like, how does a guy even recover from that? Like, how do you what do you do in that 24 hours off that would ever get you ready for the next one?
I mean, that's just it. You know what I mean? You're just trying to survive, I guess. Uh,
But you have to do that for weeks, but you have to do that. So that'd be like working Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday,
Monday, Wednesday,
24 hours.
Friday. So it's 5 shifts. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, and then done. So it's 8 calendar days, five
Oh my
shifts,
God.
and then 6 off. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't even imagine doing something
I
like that.
I have to ask him. I think they still do that over there in Omaha. I think they still
Did
do
you
it,
ever
but
did you ever flip like your responsibility? Like, Monday I'm on,
yeah,
the engine, and then
yep,
Wednesday I'm on the ambulance, so
yep,
that maybe we don't
yep.
try to burn everybody out.
Yeah, and in Omaha, they generally ran, or we generally ran, a medic and an EMT on a medic unit. So one medic on the ambulance, and then one
Yeah.
EMT driver. So the EMTs would take the BLS runs, and then the paramedic would drive the rig, and then obviously for an ALS, the medic would be in the back, and then yeah, throughout the week we would rotate. We not everybody was a medic, of course, so you would only be able to rotate the medics, but the EMTs could all rotate through. So, if you had an extra, like, I don't remember what we had on my shift. We had a shift of 6, and we had 2 or 3 medics. So those 2 or 3 rotated through. But no, in Omaha, we weren't, like, I wouldn't say we were overly busy. 3, 4, 5 calls a day, EMS calls. So now the Omaha proper medic units, I mean, they're running. I don't know what those guys are running, but they're running a ton. And but I mean,
So
how it is, like.
I think what a lot of people don't realize though is that, okay, you don't run a lot of calls, but sleeping in the station is a different sleep,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, it's not good sleep. Like,
right.
you're not britches, down to your britches with the ceiling fan on high, just drooling because you're like, that's cars.
Yeah.
Because you're so comfortable and so in such a deep sleep, and you wake up and you go, man, that was great. Like there's always that overtone that it's going to happen, just a matter of when, right?
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, some nights you're just sometimes you like set
Yeah.
yourself up for failure because you lay down in bed, you're just waiting for those tones to go off, and so then you're
And
uh
then they never do.
right, and then you can't fall asleep because then your brain won't turn
Right.
off. Yeah,
Right. And so if you did that, eight every other day for 8 days, like that eventually catches up with you. So despite call volume, like I think and I don't know this for sure, but I've heard a lot of talk about there's a shift that's 24 on, 72 off.
yeah,
So give them that extra day of rest, right? And so it doesn't really the math works out to where maybe you're not losing overtime, doing more overtime, but
yeah.
still
And I
trying to
think
get those 24 shifts in, but get that extra day of rest could
yeah, and
mean the world difference.
I think that's tied to the four platoon system. I think I could be wrong on that, but I know
Did you say what did you say before platoon? Did you say Florida?
no four platoon,
Oh, four. I got you. I
four
thought, yeah.
shifts. Yeah, four shifts. I think that's tied to that because the department that I was on out here is doing that now. So about 3-4 years ago, they hired basically a whole nother shift, and then everybody went to a four platoon. So yeah, it's basically 1 on 3 off, and then you go from not having Kelly days to you have debit days. So I don't know all the specifics of it. I've been out of it a while, but yeah, you're actually having some days that you pay back, basically scheduled overtime days that aren't overtime, I guess. But but yeah, I mean those guys love it. I mean 1 on 3 off. Are you kidding me? Like that's crazy. I mean
Yeah,
not crazy, but
that's the good, but it's a great version because it saves the like you got no recovery. If you had a bad day, if you had a bad night, like your whole 24 hours is just based on survival, right?
right,
Like,
right.
and then you were back in the mine again. So at least the 24, 48, you had,
Right, you had 2 days, but that first day was a recovery. I mean, you're only getting like 24 hours of like off time because, I mean, that first day
and
you're a
then the
wreck.
second day you started feeling pretty good, and guess what? On
Right,
that third day, you're
right.
right back into stuff again. So
Sure,
I
sure.
don't know what the I don't know what the best way to do it is, but I know what not good ways to do it, and that's just run your crews 24 hours, spend for themselves on their off day, and come right back. I
And
think mandatory overtime is a terrible idea, uh, right? Like when you're asking somebody who just got off a pretty gnarly shift, and
yeah,
then you have a sick call, and then you have to mandate overtime, and then you're like, well, I don't want to be here, and now you're making me be here, and you're already fatigued, and you're already beat up and mentally done, and now you're like, so I think those programs suck.
yeah, yeah. What's common on the West Coast is 4896. That's a pretty common thing on the West Coast,
Yeah. We got a couple
and
around here that are doing that.
yeah. And when I was flying down in California, we were stationed at a fire station, and those guys were running 4896. So I would talk to them, and I can't imagine doing that, but I mean, I saw it like that second 24. It's like a ghost town. Like there's no chores. It's just basically you're eating, sleeping, working out, and going on calls. So that side of it, I kind of understand. You get all your chores done that first 24, and then it's just basically free time. But man, can you imagine being on a medic unit for 48? I mean, I don't even know how you would. I don't care how many days off you have after that. Like, you know,
Even it's just a long time to be at work.
right?
It's a long time to be at your job. Like 48 hours, 24 is a long time to be at your job.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a crew here in the suburbs. They're doing 24 on. I might butcher this, and I'll apologize if I'm doing it. 24 on, 48 off, 48 on, and then like 3 off.
yeah.
And so, but their concession to that 48 is on the second day of their 48, they can sleep until 8 o'clock.
Right,
And you're
right,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
What if I just go into the station at 5 a.m.?
Right.
Uh, it's just a long time to be at your job, man.
Yeah, 48. I mean, we would get not mandatory. We could get mandatory to 36. But yeah, I mean, even yeah, it just seemed like forever. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't. I
don't
mean, I
even
don't.
know like, what we're doing now. I don't at where I work. I don't even think we can do. I don't think we can do 36 without permission, right?
Yeah, I think it's the same place where I
Well, we and
fly.
we
I think
we have to have 8 hours off in between 24s now, and I know that you know the reason why that policy exists.
what's one of my best Jason Stanford stories?
And
It's one of my
listen,
favorites.
I've said it before. I've written some policies, and I've had some policies written because of me,
Oh
and I'm
man, it
proud of
feels
them all.
that just feels like yesterday. It just feels like yesterday I was sitting in that office watching that go down. I've been
When
gone
it
for
went down.
yeah, I've been gone 10 years, man. That's crazy. 10 years.
Uh, take us through the chronological order of your career
Uh,
up until where you are now. So, like, you you did the firefighter EMS thing, and then pilot school.
yeah, so like got into the fire service right at 18, started volunteering, then career at 21, and then always wanted to kind of fly. Was just trying to figure out how to make that happen, early 2000s. And so at the time I was living in Nebraska, taking lessons in Washington, flying lessons in Washington. My family had lived out or had moved out here, so I would come out to Washington for a week or two and then just take flying lessons. So did that, and then once I got to the point where I could be employable, I left here in 2010 and started doing tours in the Grand Canyon. So did tours for a company in the Grand Canyon out of Las Vegas. Did that for about a year. I knew I wanted to do EMS because I had the fire EMS background. I knew I wanted to do probably EMS flying. So I had kind of like my eye on the prize, and so I only did tours for a year. It was fun. It was a great experience. But left at the end of 2010 and got hired on with my current employer, one of the big three-letter agencies, helicopter EMS, and so took a job in Iowa and originally was supposed to go to Sioux City. So I actually applied to go to Sioux City first.
For
Yeah.
real.
Yep. Yeah. Because my plan was to move back to Omaha. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. So I was like, well, I'll take the Sioux City job. At the time, it was a base there, and I was like, well, I'll just live in Omaha, and then I'll commute up for my shifts, and then I'll wait for an Omaha base to open, and then I'll just transfer down to Omaha, and then
Yeah.
basically live the rest of my life in Omaha. And so at the time, I think they had to put like your 4 or 5 choices of bases that you wanted to go to, and so I had Knoxville on my list. But I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Sioux City. They flew a BK at the time. I always wanted to fly a BK, and I wanted to be in Omaha. And so was in training. Was in training, which was like a 2 week deal. It was in training. They called me into the office like on the 4th day, and they're like, "Hey, we're losing the contract for Sioux City. So you need to pick a new base." So was like, "Oh man." Now hindsight, they knew that they were losing that base, and they still hired me
Sure.
on, which is fine. But at the time, I was just like, well, Knoxville. I'll just go. I'll go to Knoxville. Like, I'll fly a 407 in Knoxville, and it's only 2.5 hours from Omaha or whatever it is, and shoot,
Yeah.
basically the same plan. And so got to Knoxville in early 11, so February March of 11, and then was in Knoxville through 2011, and then a spot opened up in Des Moines, and
Mhm.
so basically tried to apply or transfer up to Des Moines. They were at the time, I think they were down to 2 pilots in Des Moines because of retirements and medical and whatnot. So yeah, I went to Des Moines in late 11, and then was there until early 15, and then I decided to move to Denver. So I took a transferred again.
I forgot about the Denver move.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe it was you and Sarah were in the aircraft when I told you we were flying back, and I'm like, hey guys, you're the first to know I'm leaving, and so yeah, I transferred to Denver, thinking, again, my family was in Washington, and so I was like, well, I'll get a little closer. I want to fly in the mountains, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and so moved to Denver, and then man, I tell you what, like immediately within like the first three months of being in Denver, I was like, this isn't. I don't like this at all. So knew pretty quickly that I wasn't going to stay in Denver, and so then just kind of waited until they wanted you to be there for a year to 18 months. So I just waited for a spot to open up, and that was kind of tough because man, I was ready to leave, and I kind of felt trapped because I had to do my time and like waiting for positions to open. But luckily enough, like in middle of 16, a job opened up in Seattle. So I then transferred up to Seattle and been up here ever since. So
So what was the layover in Denver then? What was the length of that?
the reason I didn't like it,
No, like the layout, like how, well, we're gonna get to that, but what was you had to stay in Denver how long?
12 to 8. So it was it was between 12 and 18 months, and it was really manager decision between 12 was the minimum, 18 was the max that you had to stay if you
So
wanted to leave.
when you take a job when you take a job at a new base, you have to stay there for 12 months.
Yeah. Barring
Oh,
exceptions, exceptions can be made, I believe, needs of the customer, et cetera, et cetera, needs of the company. But generally, yes, 12 months, they want you at a base for 12 months.
do you feel comfortable with like what was the feeling in that? Was it just a vibe thing, or was it a base thing?
Culture,
Was it a
yeah,
culture thing?
culture,
Yeah,
program culture, yeah, program culture, it's a whole discussion, right? But like every program has its culture, every base has a culture.
yeah.
And I didn't like it. And I think because I had flown somewhere else, like I kind of knew like what other programs were or what they could be. And so I just necessarily just like didn't drink the Kool-Aid. And, I just didn't subscribe to, I just didn't think it was I didn't think it was a good program. But I didn't like it.
Yeah, well, not every place is for everybody, right? Like, there's a place
Yeah,
where people fit in, and sometimes there's a place where people don't. And it usually takes like like-minded people. There's just people that have a different belief system and a different way they go about things, and it doesn't necessarily resonate with 100% of the staff, right? So you just kind of find your own group or your niche of people that you get along. And I can't imagine like geographically, like bases couldn't be all that different.
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's a really I do have like some energy towards like culture and just the way programs are run. Because you could draw that line across all first responders, fire departments, EMS agencies. Some have a good culture, some have a bad culture. Some do it one way, some do it another way, and it's just interesting to observe. I've flown a lot of different places, and it's just interesting to observe how places operate. And medicine is medicine. Obviously, there's differences there. Flying is flying, but there's differences there as well. But it's just interesting, geographically and just cultural wise, like how different places can be. And yeah, I didn't fit in, and I got to the point where I didn't really want to fit in either. So I mean, that was kind of like
Oh,
to my
sure, sure. Like there's a whole different thing where you've got to maintain your own personal standard, right? Like uh, this is maybe sometimes it sounds fun, but then when you go do something, you're like, I don't know, right? And you can have two different cultures on, uh, dare I say it, across the street
sure.
from,
Oh yeah,
two,
yeah,
two programs can be very different
yeah, yeah.
from just being across the street, and maybe, how one is perceived versus the other one, or uh, so we do that in the department too, right? Like,
Right,
you either got to be fun to hang out with or good at your job, but you can't suck at both. So if I'm going to get assigned a partner, like I need a partner that is not necessarily me, but aligned with me, right? In order for our to make our relationship work, our 24-hour a day shift or our 24-hour shift to work, we need to be at least on the same level of standard, right? You don't screw
right,
your partner, you don't screw the next shift, you do your job, you do what they ask. If you said you checked it, then you did, right? Like, trust but verified, all that kind of stuff. In this industry, it's always been intriguing to me how a culture can get set in and over decades maintain that same culture, whether good or bad. But for decades, like, you can get some deep rooted people into these businesses, into these cultures that are just set the tone, and anybody coming in after them is going to learn that culture. And if you buck it or start asking any questions and be like, and you get beat down for something like that, and then how that can spiral into just a negative, toxic environment, and all of a sudden, man, that turnover is a little high at that base. I wonder why.
right.
Or, pilots still seem to come and go at that base. I wonder why. Um, and then, so how do you mitigate it then? What can you
Man,
do? What did you do as an individual to be like, yeah, I came from Iowa, and back there we just kind of did it, and uh, and so I kind of just want to do it here too, without a
yeah.
lot of like resistance.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I think it's really, really hard, like as a just a worker to change culture. I really, obviously you can work your way into like front level manager or take a supervisory role, and that's where I think you can start to push back a little bit, change the tide. But man, I think it's really hard as a worker, especially being a new worker. It's first responders and public safety. It's very much like a hey, this is the way we did it back in man, that does
Yep.
not fly ever anywhere. And so, sure, you can lead by example. I think there's truth to that, but man, I just think it's really hard. You roll into a new place that has a bad culture or just a culture, and you try to change it. I mean, you're talking. I mean, it's like it's the fish swimming upstream. How long do you want to fight that? And
You're outnumbered. You're outnumbered. You're the minority.
yeah,
Like, especially, you might find one or two other people on that department. It's like, man, I'm glad you said something. I've been wanting to say something for three
right.
months about whatever the culture is. Pick your thing, and it's usually probably complacency. It's usually, which is the negative term of contentment, right? It's usually, I don't want to bother fixing it. I don't want to bother doing more because the comfort level I feel right now by not doing it is good enough for me. Like, I'm okay just doing this, and I don't want to learn. I don't want to get a new ventilator because the old one works just fine, even though the new one does, 110 times better than the old one. But pick your point.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It's
seems to
just
be the leading cause, I think, of bad departments is complacency.
Yeah, and I think it's just, and honestly, I think it's bad management. Bad supervisors, leaders failing to lead, managers failing to manage. I think that's 90% of the problems in. I mean, you could just say anybody's workplace. My wife is an
Yeah,
ER nurse, and she comes home and tells me stuff about her hospital. And it's just 9 times out of the 10, I tell her it's like, well, what's your manager doing about it? Like your manager is failing to manage. Night
yeah,
shifts against day shifts against night shift, ERs versus ICU, and it's just like it's all the same, right? It's just different, you know, pilots against med crew against pilots against manage. It's just
I listened to a
it's
good thing the other day that said, like your top performers need a standard, and they also need a consequence. So your top performers need to understand what the standard is, and they're gonna play at that high level, right? They're gonna meet that standard because they're high performers. But they also need some sort of consequence when that standard isn't met. Okay, so that keeps them at that high standard. But if let's say I'm the top performer and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and you are the opposite of that, but yet you get the same amount of compensation or for not meeting the standard. There's no consequence for you not meeting the standard, right? That's usually when bad things happen to a department. That's usually when the culture goes south. Is if something is tolerated that isn't the standard and there is no consequence, then your top performers are going, well, shit.
well, yeah, just a lack of accountability. Yeah, like what is the consequence for this action? And if there isn't any, and if that standard is not maintained, and there's no repercussions for, then it's just a lack of accountability. Then your high performers see that, and then they, at some point, you try to always have a positive attitude going to work, but at some point, like, I don't care if it's the 30th day or the 31st day, at some point you're going to say to yourself, like, well, why? I mean, like,
Yeah,
employee X, like, but that's where the managers and leaders coming in and saying, hey, that's not going to be tolerated. Or you see them setting, you see them doing that, and you're like, man, like, if he can do that or she can do that, then I should be
yeah,
doing that too. And if you respect them, obviously, that's part of it too. But that usually I think that comes together. You have a manager or a leader that sets the standard, isn't afraid to let you know that you didn't meet the standard, and then go out and do what they're asking you to do. You're like, you know what, man, I can row with that guy or girl.
yeah. They're not going to ask me to do anything they wouldn't do themselves.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
there if there's a weight limit to get on the helicopter and they are above it, they're getting below it.
right, right.
Even if
Yeah,
even if they don't fly.
and I think that's partly, why I didn't like flying in Denver was, coming from Iowa. I feel like had pretty good managers and pretty good leaders on both sides
Yeah.
of the coin, both on the medical side and on the aviation side. And so when I left, it was just kind of a culture shock for me a little bit. So I hold in high regard the leadership that we had in Iowa, and still do, to some extent. But I feel like that's a good example. Is that I don't know if you want to use generations, but the managers and leaders that have come in behind since I left have predominantly, I think, probably maintained that standard. Because I was just back in town a month ago, and I kind of saw it, and so that's what I you can maintain that culture because it's like the children learn from the parents, and those children now are doing it with their
Generational
children.
thing.
Yes, it's yeah. Um,
And that day you were back was very fun. You could tell that everybody was having a good time. Like we really enjoyed A, having you back, and B, like just being around each other. There's
yeah, I mean,
no
yeah,
right, like it wasn't a oh my god, I got to go do this PR thing today. It was,
right.
man, we get to be outside. It's a cool event. We're gonna get to see a lot of people we haven't seen around in a long time, and everybody loves everybody. And it was a great time. I do remember we get back to you moving to Denver. I do remember helping you move, or at least packing up.
That's right. That's
And
right. Did you get the shop vac? Did you get the shop vac, or did MFC get the shop vac?
I don't
You know,
know. I mean, I have a shop vac. Was it yours?
we got to the end of loading the truck, and it was like half this. There were a few things that weren't left, and the shop vac didn't
Was
make
it
the
a very
cut.
small shop vac?
No, it was good size. It was, I don't know, 30-gallon or whatever the big ones are. But
Oh no, I don't have that. I don't have that shop
yeah,
vac.
yeah. I just remember being like, what?
I do have some boat life jackets.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's when you help somebody move, that's kind of the you should get pizza, you should get food and or remnants of stuff that can't be loaded into the moving truck. It's just it's a free for all.
Well, we figured if it was important, it'd be at the front of the truck.
Right,
Right, like that's
right.
the most valued thing you want to take. And then if it was left out and then there was no room for it, then we just
Yeah,
figured we'd take it home.
yeah.
But
I've
I
gotten
remember
pretty.
it was kind of like a swap meet that whole move. Like we were dickering,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we were getting down to stuff. And I got some pretty cool things. I think
yeah.
none of which I can remember right now because it's been a long
Well,
time.
obviously they were super important.
Had I
Yeah,
know there was a had I know there was a shop vac on the table,
yeah. That's the only thing I can remember is the shop vac.
then I have a tiny one, shop vac that is, and I've had it for a long time. But I think we picked that up at Menards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got pretty good at loading U-Hauls over the years. Yeah, pretty good about driving east and west on the interstate system over the years. But yeah, hopefully sit still for a little while. But
All right, hey, listen, we're going to interrupt this show for a second because my younger kids are dying to ask
yeah,
you
no
a
problem.
question. And well, actually, that's Carson.
Hello.
She's 14.
Hello, hi Carson.
Did my mom throw you in the water?
That's not how I remember
Did
it.
you beat his butt? Did
I
she beat
remember
his butt?
no. I remember a struggle, and then I remember like a cheap shot or two from the crowd, and then while I was stunned, I think I got thrown in the water. But
Yes,
I
sir,
don't it's
sir,
not exactly how I remember it. I got a great picture of it still somewhere on my phone.
There's usually
Uh,
three versions. I don't think they can hear your response because you're in my ear.
The
yeah,
answer is yes.
no,
But
yeah,
my wife seems to think that that's exactly
Throw
right.
down.
yeah, yeah.
But there's three
That was
sides. There's three sides to every story, buddy.
yeah,
His side, the truth.
correct. Yeah, yeah. I remember that. That was like canoeing down the river, right? Yeah, or
Yeah,
tubing,
we went to Boone.
tubing, or
We went to
yeah,
Boone.
yeah. That was fun. Good
Yeah, that was
times.
a good time.
Yeah.
When you live in Des Moines when you worked in high school?
Well, like Pleasant Hill, I think is where I lived on the east side. Pleasant Hill, right? Pleasant Hill on the east side. Yeah.
Pleasant Hill is on the east side. Pleasantville
Yep.
is a town.
No, yeah, I
And
lived
then
in
you moved.
Pleasant.
Yeah, and then you went to Ankeny after that.
Yeah,
Then you moved to Des Moines.
just yeah, I rented. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I just drive down to Knoxville, and then when I took the Des Moines job, then I bought a house or built a house in Ankeny. Yeah.
So listen, let's talk about the West Coast a little bit. We got to talk about the weather out there. Like obviously you have to be an IFR program to fly out there. Otherwise, you would never leave the ground, right? Like,
Correct. Yeah,
is it?
correct.
It's got to be way more challenging to fly there than it does here in Iowa.
You know, every place that you fly has its own unique challenges. So I would say yes. Generally, overall, it is more challenging to fly the Pacific Northwest because of the weather. You know, we do have good summers. So like right now, it's 75 and sunny, and we'll be that way through most of the summer. 80s, high 80s. But yes, come like late September, October ish. Yes, the ceilings will come back down to about like 802, and then we'll be that way with mist probably through most of the winter until April. The wipers, and it's not, the common misconception is that it's like rain, like you're like raining all day every day, and it's not it. It's like a mist.
Like
It's
it's
like a
sweeping off your
drizzle.
windshield. That's
Yeah,
not
it's
true, huh?
Yeah, it's like a drizzle. So like your wipers, like on the first detent of intermittent, and that's just that way for like the next month and a half.
It doesn't
So
sound. How do you stay happy through all that, man?
it is actually, it's a pretty common thing up here to get like the
No,
seasonal, what is it, seasonal affective disorder, SAD.
yeah, it's sad.
Most everybody that lives up here, you try to plan a vacation like November through February, and so we'll try to go to Hawaii. My wife and I'll try to go to Hawaii once during that time frame. But a lot of times you can get above it. Like if you're doing the IFR flying, you can get above it. So I mean, those days are great when you're actually on top of the cloud layer and you're soaking up that vitamin D, and that happens with some regularity. But it's not uncommon to take off and then be in the clouds for the 45-minute round trip or hour and a half round trip, and you don't see anything the entire flight.
It's not. It's
Um,
not my. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's not my favorite thing. Um, it's. I mean, it's not scary, but it's just not to be in the clouds the entire. You literally see. You couldn't even see an arm length in front of you. It's not my favorite. I get it. It's cool. It's just not fun.
yeah, um, yeah. It's challenging. I mean, I really do enjoy flying up here because of that challenging aspect. And then you throw in the mountains. So we have mountain ranges to the west and to the east of us. And so, just yesterday I was flying up in one of the passes and picking up a hiker. But yeah, the weather is definitely challenging up here. Now, I will say, Iowa weather is challenging too. You get everything, right? So we don't really get
Today's gonna be challenging, man. We got
right.
some storms coming in. Nobody really knows when. And then all of a sudden, bam, they're there, right? Like
Yeah,
if you take a flight right now, you better make sure you leave
right,
yourself an hour on the tail end of that thing. Otherwise, those storms pop up, and then you just.
right. Yeah,
And
we
it
don't
seems
really
like a
get this.
routine day.
We don't really get the
Like,
storms up here. Now we'll get like maybe one or two. We'll get like maybe one or two thunderstorms a year here, where everybody freaks out, and maybe like one clap of thunder, you know. But they're not usually like frontal. You're not getting fronts rolling through and bringing storms with them. So we don't really get the storms here. And then when we do, it's kind of, can we fly? It's like, yeah, that one's 80 miles that way. We should be good, But yeah, we do get ice. We get ice in the winter. We have about a month where we have freezing levels, and then yeah, just that June gloom. We call it June gloom. So we're just coming out of it where we had like 3 or 4 days of, like I said, 800 feet and 2 or 3 miles, and or 1,000 feet. I mean, where you can potentially do it VFR, but you better be ready to commit to the IFR if you need to. But yeah, pretty busy program up here. Six rotors, 3 airplanes, all spread out through the state. The state's broken by a mountain range, the Cascades. So you have the west side of the state and the east side. I predominantly fly on the west side of the state. Um, Pretty busy program. I don't know what we do for volume, but we're probably maybe 50 flights a month. Fairly
pretty good.
steady. Yeah, fairly steady, fairly busy.
What's
Uh,
your transport times?
So we're basically kind of like the Des Moines. We're like more or less, we're not in the city, but we're right across the water from the city. So we're a lot of like 15, 20-minute legs, 10-minute legs, 8-minute legs.
Oh,
We'll do some longer range stuff as other helicopters are busy. They're all spaced out, obviously. So, but our base is the closest to the city. So we have a lot of short stuff. Um, it's not uncommon to have like a 29-minute round trip, three-legged, round trip flight, 9-minute leg, 9-minute leg, you know.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, those are quick. Those are quick hitters. Now, is
Yeah,
that because you have to get over a body of water? Like, what's the advantage to calling you versus just taking them by ground?
yeah. So the biggest thing out here, the biggest thing out here is just the geography and the water. So it's the Puget Sound. So it's inland salt water. So if you think, it's ocean water, it's salt water, but you're so far inland that it's just a lot of channels and cuts of water, and so like I said, like one of our pretty common customers is just an island right across the water from Seattle, and so you're as the crow flies, you're only 12 miles, but you're either taking a ferry, a boat, or you're driving out and around through bridges and such to get back down around to the city. So it's like an 8 minute. So one of our common customers, I'll give you an example, is like an 8 minute leg from the LZ to Seattle proper, or it's a 50-minute boat ride, and that's just water time, right? So it's mass transit, so you got to load, unload, all that stuff,
Sure.
or you're probably like an hour 45 drive time, 2 hour drive time to drive out and
No
around, go
way.
around the water. Yes, yes, yeah. It's really, I
Crazy.
mean, you really got to look at a map to really understand it, but it's just water. It's just water, all these cuts and islands, and one or two bridges to get across to the other side, or three or four boats, ferries, routes, to get across to the other side. So that's really where like air medical is really advantageous up here.
So really,
But
anybody that calls 911 and gets an ambulance that needs to go to the hospital is probably going to get a helicopter.
yeah, there is a pretty strong paramedic system out here. I'd say pre-hospital EMS out here is pretty strong, all mostly fire based, but it's in the metro area, everybody's ALS. There's some critical care stuff, and then there's hospitals spread out and around. But yes, generally, if you're on the other side of the water, we'll just call it like the Kitsap Peninsula. So if you're on that side of the water, yes, anything, obviously trauma or anything like that, you're going to be flying across the water. You're going to get flown, and which is really why like a lot of the memberships are a big deal over on this side, because there's a lot of flying that goes on. So there's some good hospitals on this side of the water, but obviously everything's like in the city, if you will. The heavy hitter hospitals are all on the other side of the city.
Do
So
you have competitors close?
we have a pretty big competitor within the last 5 years or so that has kind of rolled up. They're their own provider. They're a conglomerate that does both the aviation and the medical, and they've been pretty aggressive in the area. So it has cut into our volume. They've taken away some of like our largest competitors, or our largest customers, I should say, and so that has changed kind of the outlook of the air medical out here. For the longest time, we were it. Like we were the only, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And like at the time when I moved up here in 16, like we were it. And so I think we were only one of like 3 or 4 geographical areas in the country that didn't have like more than one air medical provider. So
Sure.
I can fondly remember like 4th of July is where you would you'd be on your way, and that happens in Des Moines too, but you'd be on your way loaded with a patient. Hey, how long till you can get to the next one? I don't know, like an hour
Yeah.
or so. Okay, they said they'll wait. It's like, okay, well, I'll go get
Okay.
fuel and just keep doing this. But that's it. And so that's changed a little bit, but that's where like the weather thing too. The weather comes into play. If you're the only game in town and you turn something down for weather, it's now not, we're not going to drive. It's okay. Well, we'll call you back in an hour or two, and then we'll try it again. And so again, I can
Yeah.
vividly remember, like, well, these flights are going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely different up here. Pretty good program overall. The competition thing is really, like I said, it's really kind of bummed me out a little bit, because our flights are changing. The longer, quote unquote, funner, more challenging flights are going away because there's more helicopters, so you're not doing them. Just because there's an area called the San Juan Islands, which is up on the North like Canadian border, and that's that's one of the most beautiful places in the country, and so a lot of money up there. There's a lot of pretty small islands, and we used to go up there all the time, and we just don't go there anymore because competition. They're closer, so that flight kind of like went away for us. But yeah, it's we fly nurse up here, so no medics.
Exclusively, huh?
Yeah,
No
yep,
medics,
nurse,
huh?
no
Damn.
medics. The competitor does medics, but we don't. We've done nurse. When I started, it was like adult specialty nurse and pediatric specialty nurse, so there was a kind of crossover.
Oh, yeah.
But they kind of went away with that. There's still a little bit of that, but they don't. I don't think they quote unquote like try to schedule that anymore. It's just basically nurse. Really good overall. Really good nursing up here. Really good medicine. We fly the EC-135 exclusively,
Yep.
which isn't my favorite. When I got here, we were in a 109, which was a lot of fun to fly. But yeah, what else do you want? And then the airplanes, I don't have much interaction with the fixed wing side of the program, but they do a lot of the longer range stuff, go across the mountains a lot more, and then in the winter with the icing, they're able to fly a lot more. So those guys are really busy in the winter when we're turning stuff down for weather. But yeah, all over the state. We'll go into Oregon a little bit, but yeah, pretty good setup. I've been here 9 years. And overall, it's a little different up here. It's a little different up here as far as like air medical, as far as just kind of what it's like in the Midwest. Let's see, what would be a good example. A lot of hospitals up here don't have helipads, so it's kind of goofy. There's a lot more like ambulance reposition legs, if that makes sense. So you're not landing at the hospital; you're landing in a parking lot like 6 blocks away, and then they still have to get in the ambulance and then drive to the hospital. So that's
They
kind
don't
of
bring the patients. They don't bring the patients to you.
very rarely. Very
Yeah.
rarely, yeah. The most of the time, the crew will have to get in the ambulance, go get the patient, and come back. Every once in a while, if you're like, hey, listen, the weather's rolling in. Like if you don't bring the patient to us, like we're going to turn around and go home. Occasionally they will, but a lot of times it's like the whole transfer of care thing. So they most of the time we have to go get them. But even drop off, like even if we pick up and then we're dropping the patient off, they have to get in the ambulance and then go drop off. So that's a little different.
Even like your big like level 1 trauma centers and PCI centers and stroke centers, they don't have helipads.
So the level 1 trauma center is Harborview. It's right in the city. That's like the only level 1 trauma center I believe in the state. And it has helipads, but it's on a parking garage. So you can see the entrance to the hospital, but you can't walk there. So you have to get in an ambulance and go around the block.
No way.
Yeah, yep. It's pretty weird in that regard. And then of course, it's a private ambulance, so now they're going to get billed. They're going to get billed for that 4,000 feet of ambulance transport on every flight, right?
Oh
So
man, yeah. And
yeah.
is that because of like just the way the city lays out, where the urban structure lays out, or they just didn't get planned into the hospital build, or
Yeah.
air medical transport's new? I guess
No,
we'd have a few around here that didn't have them, but they were all rural hospitals.
right.
And usually it was a funding issue. So
Right.
fine, we'll land in a grass field next to that nursing home.
Right.
The ambulance will pick us up. We'll do the thing, but they were rare.
Right.
And in Iowa, we can use a hospital helipad to tier with EMS with no IMTALA violation. So
Right.
they were always great landmarks. Hey, meet us at the hospital helipad. Take them from there. Perfect. And so
Yep.
we always had our approaches. We were always lit. There was never you didn't need it to have it secured with a police officer. So, and I think almost every hospital now has one. So to go somewhere where almost nobody has one would be a logistic. Like you have to build that into your flight plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do this, but you're gonna have to be pretty quick on the ground getting my crew back to me, or it's not gonna work out.
Yeah. Duty time. Duty time's the other thing too. Both duty time and weather.
Sure.
So there are some hospitals that there's I don't know what the actual mix is, 50-50, 60-40, but yes, the level 1 trauma center, you still have to get in an ambulance to go around. The university hospital, the major university hospital, you land in a parking lot and then go around. Actually, quite a bit. You'd probably be 10-minute drive to the hospital, and that
Man,
hospital
I was
for
just
sure.
thinking about the last. I was just thinking about the last trauma we took, and like one of the trauma centers helipad was shut down, and we're like, we got zero time for that. We would have to take it. We're going to go to our house because
Right.
our helipad is not broke down, and we're just as good at trauma center. I couldn't imagine loading that last patient into our helicopter, doing all the things that we did, and then landing somewhere and saying, okay, let's undo and get all out, put it in an ambulance, and then drive another, basically 3, 4, 5 minutes just to undo all that again like that. And you guys got to do it on every flight. Like kudos to your flight crew.
Yeah, and it's almost like a bonus when you do like a rooftop helipad to rooftop helipad. It's like, oh, this was great, you know. And then every once in a while, I'll be like, yeah,
Almost spoiled.
this is the way it should be, you know, like this is the way like it should be, no ambulance, no ambulance leg, but yeah, it's just interesting, you know. That's where that geographical thing like comes in. It's just interesting, like how medicine and like specifically air medicine is just different in different parts of the country, and how it's just, like I said, just the helipad thing is weird. Trying to think of some other good examples, but it's, there's a lot of people out here. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of hospitals.
I would imagine that like the population is more dense. Like you have just more people in a smaller area. And when you're out there I don't know this from any experience other than this is just my assumption, right? So you have a lot of people in smaller spaces. Where in Iowa we have a lot of people, but we're pretty spread out, like throughout the whole state.
Yeah,
Most of our
yeah,
state occupies people where I can't imagine there's got to be parts in the Pacific Northwest that don't occupy a large amount of people. You just
sure.
based off the terrain.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, obviously the west side of the state is way more populated than the east side, and so I think it's like 70% of the state's population are on the west side. And so yeah, then you have your big cities, your Seattle, your Tacoma, basically all up and down the I-5 interstate. There is where all your major cities are. But yeah, so yeah, the population is pretty dense in through all those cities, and so, but then as soon as you start working your way out into the hills and into the mountains, then yeah, your density goes way down, and then you're kind of more rural. And certainly on the east side of the state, there's large stretches of kind of high desert where small towns and, looks a little bit more Midwestern. We have a base way on the east side, and I drove out there, and there was a point where I was driving, I swear, through like wheat fields and cornfields, and I'm like, man, am I like back in Iowa? It feels like totally foreign to me. But yeah, it's an interesting, kind of an interesting makeup. The air medical is, but I'm trying to think of another good example. But that's one of the. I mean, I love flying different places and just seeing different things and just seeing how different, just not necessarily culture, but just how different programs operate or how they have to operate. Out here, generally the pilot does the loading and unloading. That's kind of, yeah, yes, and that's
not
not.
alone.
Well, so historically, it's interesting because, the program kind of gets a bad rap because, visiting pilots come in and, word of mouth spreads like, oh, what do you mean you got to do the loading and unloading? Historically, it was the pilots wanted to do the loading and unloading. This is how I understand it from some of the old timers. Historically, the pilots wanted to do the loading and unloading. So that just kind of worked its way through over the years. And, different loading systems, different helicopters, it's just kind of stayed that way. Now they won't. It's not because they won't. They won't help you. And all my crews are obviously willing to help. But I will say, we generally have a lot of smaller female nurses. So, what am I supposed to do as a?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm
Don't
saying
do it.
is, no.
Don't
What I'm
do it. Oh, no, you did it. Upper body strength. That's what you're
no,
saying.
no.
Women are weaker.
No. What my point is that what am I supposed to do? There's a crew of 3, right? 2 nurses and a pilot.
I
I'm
get it.
standing back there, adult male, 205 pounds on a good day. Like, I'm supposed to just stand there and watch them do it. Like, that's not.
It's a chivalrous thing.
I don't think it's necessarily fair, to be honest. So I don't mind doing it. Yes, they will help
Yeah.
as soon as I get somebody that is larger. I'm like, hey, can you give me a hand? There's always somebody willing to help. But yes, culturally, that's just the way we do it out here, and I don't mind it. And some of the bases are kind of slowly changing that over. But
I do the whole thing too, where I'm like I understand that I should, because again, they can kill this conversation on the internet all they want to. But you know when my masculinity is toxic is when somebody needs a pickle jar opened or the Titanic's sinking, right? Then all of a sudden it's okay. So loading the cot is the same way. Like, listen, I work with a lot of females. They're very strong, independent women, but but we live in Iowa, right? We have a pretty big population. Like, if I'll go ahead and do even when I was, weeks leading up to my hip surgery, eh, more than capable of doing it. These gals, more than no, sorry, I got it. I feel like it's like my duty as the 6 foot, 185 pound male here. I'll do it. Right? It's not a problem. It's a chivalry thing. I get it. It's a culture thing. But the point of that is that our pilots are like, hey, listen, you good? And they're like real hands off here because their theory is, man, if I tweak my back, how do we get out of here? And it's a legit concern. Like, I don't want them to. Now, will they grab the monitor and help us and make sure that the litter we put in our $7 million helicopter doesn't the wheel doesn't bind up, and we got to get the rubber mallet out and beat that thing so we can get it into the patient? Like, they're always there to do that, but physically lifting that patient in and out of the helicopter, I don't know that I've ever seen it done on our program.
Yeah, it's like I said, I look at it like as to me, honestly, it just makes sense. Nobody will not help, but you got a vented patient, or we do balloon pumps and pellet pumps. It's like, and sometimes you don't have help up on the roof or on the helipad. So I'm supposed to just stand there and let these two people, whatever gender, whatever size, I'm just supposed to stand there. I just assume take the lead on loading and let you guys take care of all the medical stuff. You know what it's like to load a 135. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's only three of you, and it's raining, it's misting, it's the weather's coming down. Like, I would just as soon help the parts that I know that I can help. I'm 6'3", I can help load the stretcher if you want to take the pump or the monitor or the vent, So I don't mind it.
If anybody's seen a 135 get loaded by some guy that's 6'3", that is
Right.
not ergonomically
Right.
safe.
Right.
Like, it is not a fun thing to do at all. So I get it, man. What we went back to when you said before, like at the beginning of the thing, you're like, well, what would I have to offer? Whatever audience I have, and whatever that whole imposter syndrome thing. I listened to an interesting take on that yesterday on a podcast where, like, I get the whole imposter syndrome thing, but to some point it's almost a little pandering, right? Like, we're like, oh, the way to get over it is to be like, you know what? I am the guy that's been doing this for 15 years. I am the guy that's worked for 3 different flight services across the country and 2 different fire EMS services across the country. And you know what? I do have a lot to offer. And it's not, the whole concept wasn't like how to gain confidence in a room type of thing. It was just a counter to the imposter syndrome way of thinking, because I think that you and I and a ton of other people in our job are like even when I started a podcast, like, who's going to want to listen to me talk shit about what it means to come home to my wife and kids after a 24-hour shift? Like, who am I to say to you, hey man, take a deep breath before you're coming home, because here's what your wife's going to expect you to do, and here's what you're going to expect your wife to do for you, and they're not going to work together. It's a recipe for disaster. So take it from me. So the point of this is that at some point in all of our careers, when it comes to giving back to what we do and giving our stories away to people, we have to walk into that room and be that guy that's like, listen, I haven't seen it all, done it all, but I've been doing it a long time. So I'm going to offer you this story, and I'm going to offer you this this time. Like, you've given me the best gift I could ever ask for, and that's 82 minutes of your day, right? To share with me and 75 other people about you. And there is no impersonating that. Can't do it. That's just you being you. And so I think we would all do better sometimes if we went into a room and said, you know what, man, I'm in here with a bunch of critical care nurses. What am I going to share with you? I'm just a critical care paramedic. I don't know nothing about nothing. And we went into the room more of, hey, listen, we're all equals here. I've got a unique set of stories and a unique set of circumstances that I'm going to share today. Take away with it what you want. You guys got your own and got your own to do things. But here's my story. And I think that that's the message that I'm trying to send right now is through this 82 minutes, you have shared a lot of cool stuff, right? That some people are going to listen to and be like, man, that's awesome. And some people are going to be like, that's not for me. But I do the same thing with podcasts, right? I don't listen to every podcast that everybody puts out. I listen to the ones I think are interesting, right? And it might take me 5 days to get through it. So don't shortchange yourself, man. Like we've known each other a long time, and it seems like the longer we know each other, the more unbelievable that time has been. Like I can't believe that you've been gone for 10 years, right? Because even though we don't talk regularly, we talk enough. But those like short time you were with us, man, like it was dense. Like we did a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Is so don't sell yourself short on that kind of stuff because your perspective is unique. And it's different than anybody else that I talk to.
Yeah. I think, doing this is kind of like we all have interests and wants and desires. And I was kind of like, man, what would I like to get across? Obviously we were talking about your target audience and, the air medical. I mean, I have a passion for air medical and, aviation, but then, on the medical side too, and just the crew dynamics, the crew resource management, all that stuff. Like there's the mentoring, there's a lot of things you could sit down and talk about with our industry, and things are changing, but it's just interesting to me to talk about that stuff and people can learn. I try to, if you can, the aviation versus medical component of it, I feel like I have a lot of energy towards that, but
I think what we should do, and this is how I see it going, because you're like you're the beta test, right, for this video conferencing thing and with remote. So you're in Seattle, and so it really wouldn't be nothing for us to get back on this thing in another few weeks and go, hey, let's pick a topic of your side versus in our side. So your side aviation, our side air medical. Find some sort of industry challenge, and then you and I talk through it.
Yeah,
and be like, this is how our crew figured it out. This is how your crew figured it out. How can we make it better for the industry, right? Like, and try to find those parallels because I get it a little bit too, where we have the pilots are the pilots and the crew's the crew. At least here, like I'm governed by a different set of
right.
Like I'm not an employee of your company, But we utilize your company, right. To get us across the state. So it certainly brings a unique set of challenges when you say we have to do something, and I say, well, now wait a minute, or I say, hey, I would really like you to do something for me, and you're like, well, wait a minute here, and how we navigate that. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to do. I know it sounds cliche, but at the end of the day, we're trying to do what's in the best interest of the patient, right? And understanding that your aircraft may be able to complete the mission, but us crew members are going to come up with some sort of obstacle that may not be, in our capabilities, and trying to merge those two to, okay, so now what can we do to make sure this patient gets from point A to point B, right? And sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes we can't do it. And so I think that's what comes out of this today is we learn your story, we learn your, the events that led to you being where you are in Seattle, and the fact that I can talk to you in Seattle and we can record this and somehow put this so that everybody else can hear it, I think is huge. Because what are we at, episode 53, 54 of this project? And now that opens the door to, we're 86 minutes. Now that opens the door to, hey man, you got 15 or 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I got a pretty good idea here, man. Let's you and I hash this out on a recorded thing, and whether that's dealing with cultural issues, dealing with aviation logistics, dealing with shift length and shift volume, right? This has kind of opened up a big deal, I think. Not just for me and you, but for I think the whole project.
Yeah, I agree, because like that's kind of in the beginning I was asking you, like, okay, so how many people, so you, like, if you had 75 viewers, 60 of those are air medical people, 10 firemen, firefighters, 10 EMS people. whatever those numbers are. It's like, well, what are some topics that, people would find that group would find interesting? And, when you were talking to, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but you were talking about helicopters and stuff a little bit. And you were talking about maintenance a little bit. And I'm like, man, I feel like there would be more interest in, because sometimes medical people are afraid to talk aviation stuff. And so it's like, hey, I have an issue that came up, you can make it anonymous or whatever. And it's like, let's talk about that, and obviously I don't know everything about aviation or know everything about medical. And but I think there's a lot of energy out there because of the nature of this business. There's a lot of energy out there to where things can be learned and made better. And then again, flying different places, seeing how different, I'm a big believer like in best practices. So like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. It seems like a lot of places want to reinvent the wheel. It's like, what are other places doing? What have other people seen? Does it work good? Does it not work good?
Can we just be good at what we're good at? Right. Can we I don't have to do these 60, 120 minute over the country transports where I have to monitor capillary wedge pressures, man. So why am I why am I sitting here learning about capillary wedge pressures? You know what I have to do really good? Heart attack, stroke, traumatic injury, respiratory emergencies, pediatrics. Okay? Let me be really good at that. I'll knock it out of the park on those deals. But don't ask me some trivia question about what happens if your catheter's too far and what's your waveform going to look like. Man, I don't know. I'll measure it. I'll remember it for a test. But here's the example that I get that I can give you. That's the best price. The old cold weather policy around here, right? Like every year. And so here's the answer I get. Well, Jason, the helicopter will perform up to negative 40 degrees. I understand that, but nothing in that helicopter on my end will perform in negative 40 degrees, right? Not one thing works. And so can we agree together as a team, your group of people supplying helicopters and piloting those helicopters, and our group of people, the med crew, on when it's a good idea to maybe go on a flight where we have to fuel stop with the patient on board and when it's not? Can we come to a number? And every number you come up with is always arbitrary. It's always like, well, if it's negative 25, why isn't it negative 23?
Right.
Oh my God, it's the bane of my existence. Like, I think that would be a huge conversation between the two of us. It's like, okay, well, if it's negative 23, why isn't it negative 20? I don't know. I'm just trying to get to a common point where we can say, you know what? We can probably make this mission work. And you know what? I don't think it's safe for anybody to try to make this mission work between the two of us. What a great example that would be if we things like that. I think that if you're looking for an example of like what cross problems like we could talk about together as far as pilot and med crew, that is like the biggest one.
Yeah.
In my culture.
Yeah, it's such a unique. I was trying to think of a situation or an industry. Is there another industry where it's like you're a part of a team, but one team's roles and responsibilities are like exclusively, mutual, totally different than the other crew's roles and responsibilities?
I don't know.
It's a very unique and obviously can lead to problems, but it's a very unique relationship, and it's just it's you sit there and you think about just kind of how problems can exist, and it's an imperfect world, right? But I just
sure, there may not be a solution,
right?
But the conversation always exists, and this is the conversation in my program that always exists: is when do we say, "Hey, listen, can we just put it in the hangar, please?" Well,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't have to. I was like, okay, why don't you just take your medical equipment out of the helicopter? Well, true, right? And this is the dance, Joel. This is where we're at.
Oh, it goes on everywhere, though, man. It goes on everywhere. I told you the story about how I think I did when I was in Des Moines about how we've come like up here. We've come full circle because back in the day, like I was saying, we didn't have any competition, so we were it. So you would get a flight request. The weather would be marginal, and you would, depending on the pilot, you would either say yes or no, right? So generally, I guess I would say that I would trend towards it's marginal. Let's give it a shot, see if we can get there. Well, you would get the you would get we probably shouldn't try it. Oh, okay, fine, let's not try it. But then that was time period A. Time period B turned into, well, if you're not going to do it by air, we're going to send an ambulance, and then you're going to go do it by ground. So then what solutions, what situation C was? Everybody, let's go give it a shot. We got to try to get there
because give it a shot, man. I think we can do it.
Right. And now we're back to if you don't go, then you don't go. So it's a good example of like how it's like, what works out best for a certain group might not work out best for the other group, But but yeah, those things go on at every program. It's just it makes me laugh a little bit because I can think of other examples that are very similar to your situation.
We'll end with this right now, and then when we do get out of here, stay on the line. I want to have like I'll hit the stop on this button and see if you still stay on the screen, and then we can talk. Wrap it up off camera. I quoted you the other day, and I don't remember what it was, but it was like, we spend an awful lot of time, and myself included. I am not innocent in anything that I've ever shared with anybody on this program, right? Like most of the things I think of to say is because I've either felt them or done them or whatever. But we always ask why are we going here? Like, and I'm 100% like doing this in the best interest of the patient. So if I'm the closest to that patient and the best for this patient, then fine, I'm 100% going to it. But if I'm not, like we have this thing where we'll open up the question and be like, well, why are we doing this? And you can kind of get to the point where you can kind of talk yourself out of work, right? Well, so everything is, I'm going to look up what the definition of dichotomy is, but I got to think it's like borderline hypocrisy, borderline contradiction, but maybe on the good guy side, where everything is kind of like a trade-off. So if the West Des Moines Hospital called for a helicopter and wanted that person airlifted to the metro, like, would we say, no, that doesn't make any sense, or would we go? Right? Because that was the example you gave me one year, was like when I was trying to wrestle with the industry and how it's changing us, is would we say yes to that flight, or would we say that doesn't make any sense? And I think there probably was a time when we'd be like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. We're not going to do this. To, okay, let's go. Right? Like, it's a 7-minute flight. What are you going to do? Like, the chart's going to be real short. The patient obviously needs to be downtown. They clearly have exhausted all of their resources, or else we would not be asked to do it. Right? I've seen a shift in that a lot, probably in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, I hate to put the target on any like BC before COVID, but like when COVID showed up, it was like, you didn't have a choice. We were doing these longer transports that made zero sense because ambulances were not available to do it, right? And so the culture has shifted to, is it in the best interest of the patient, and at what point do you start triaging yourself basically out of work? So what you said 10 years ago, I don't know if you knew how much sense it was going to make. Fast forward now to 2025, it just makes a lot of sense, right? Like, especially with the competition that you have in your area. It's maybe one of those flights that didn't make sense before, now they make real good sense, because I'm not a big fan of chasing numbers, but I'm also not a big fan of talking yourself out of work. If anybody can wrap their head around that concept, and if it makes any sense at all.
Yeah. It's a huge, like, you could talk for hours just about, that part of it. Does it make sense? What are we here to do? How do you decide to go on the flight or not go on the flight? Not just whether, but like, does it make sense? Can we do this? Should we do this? It's interesting, and what one pilot or one men crew may make sense to them. Does that make sense to the other? To the night shift? Maybe it makes sense to the night shift. Maybe they're all gung ho. Maybe they want to fly. Versus, hey, we got the day shift that's 1 year from retirement and nothing makes sense to them. So, what do you do?
Even
how do you decide?
Base, does it make sense to the base pilot in one base?
Right.
If they say, and then now all of a sudden you got another base pilot going, shit, I'll do it. right? And so you just pass the work on to another crew, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it,
I
and
wish.
it's really good.
Oh, I was just because I think the, and I don't know how it is there now. I think I know, but I think the one thing that air medical doesn't do a very good job of is having like a quote unquote shift supervisor or someone in charge of those decisions on duty all the time. You know, you look at firefighters or EMS, you know, you have a lieutenant or a captain or a battalion chief, somebody that is in control, that span of control for those people that are on the streets. You know, if you have a command decision to be made, who makes that decision? And at my, I can speak for my program, you know, 6 rotors, 3 airplanes, you're talking 30 some people on shift at any given time. Who's in charge? Who can they call right now to make that decision? Does this make sense or not make sense? And we really don't have anybody. We have an on-call administrator, but you know, as you know, like 2 or 3 in the morning, you're calling, waking those people up and being like, hey, here's the situation. I don't understand why we don't do a better job of having that both the pilots and the med crew can call and say, you're in charge. This is what I've been asked to do. Should I yes do it or not do it? You know, and I don't think we largely have that. You know, you also have the comm center in on that too. You know, so you have dispatchers that, as you know, can make decisions or not make decisions, and depending on the quality of that dispatcher, you know, it's the one, and we had it up at my program. We actually had that for a little bit of time. We had a supervisor that sat in the comm center that was in charge of the entire shift, and it was great for about 6 months, and then they eliminated that position, and then again we went back to this on-call thing where, you know, they're not in my org chart, but again, like if I knew they were on duty, I called and say, hey, this is what I've got weathered out. I can make it to here, but I can't make it to here. I need you to make the decision. Should I even try this? Yes or no? And we don't have that, you know, and I think that would largely eliminate a lot of these types of issues across the board. I mean, do you have that? Do you what do you do? You know, in those types of situations, do you have an on-call person who makes that decision?
I think that this is the fact that we breached on this in the 100th minute. I think is probably could be an episode in itself. I've always been under the yeah. I mean, we have each we have a program manager, right? Here's the downsides I see with that. I don't necessarily disagree with all of it or really any of it. The pitfalls you can run into is I can sell you my side of it, Joel. If you're my supervisor in charge, I'm going to sell you my side of it on why I don't think it's a good idea. Conversely, somebody can then, after that supervisor says no, call them back and say and sell them on why it is a good idea. And really, I think it's kind of like, hey, can I have a sleepover? I don't know, ask your dad. I don't know, ask your mom, right? Like eventually, but each crew member is equipped with adult men and women who can make decisions. And I think the culture that you could potentially have with that kind of thing is now everybody is calling that person for everything, for arbitrary. I used to joke around. Remember when we started Knoxville and nobody really knew what to do, and I used to right, and so the default was, well, let's just call Dennis. Like we don't know what to do, but I'm a 30-year-old adult inside a helicopter that's been given the task to go do some cool stuff and really kind of extend that person's quality of life without asking a lot of questions. But all of a sudden, I need to ask somebody a question on whether or not I should even get in that helicopter. Like, I always felt like it took some of that power out of my hand to make the decision. So I would joke all the time and be like, hey, man, the garbage is full. You want to call Dennis and make sure it's okay we take it out? Like, because it got to the point where everybody was calling for everything. And instead of just, I would rather make a wrong decision than not make any decision at all. Right. And now, bold statement to say in an industry that can kill you, I understand that, but I'm not going to learn anything from making no decision. And we don't ever get in that helicopter. Even on a clear blue sunny day, we don't ever get into that helicopter without all 3 of us being on the same page. Why do I need a third party basically to settle some sort of disagreement? If I say, Joel, I don't want to go because I don't feel good about it, we don't go. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Or
I guess.
or am I interpreting the information differently than?
Well, no. I guess my only counter would be to that would be, you work the streets, and so you were on a medic unit, whatever you want to call it. You had
Yeah.
a bunch of them. So yes, I mean, it's very similar. The parallels between fire, EMS, air medical. I guess to me they're similar. So you always had a supervisor that was on duty, and
Yep.
but when you went out there in that rig with the two of you, the two of you went out in that rig. You went on 911 calls. You took care of 99% of the stuff. But I'm sure there were
Yep.
times where there was something where you're like, man, I need to get a hold of my supervisor on this, or
Yeah.
that
Sure.
person or that supervisor just showed up, and so to me it's the same thing with fire trucks. You lieutenant. I guess to me, it's just like the whole on-call nature of things, or just the amount of people and equipment and money that you have hanging out on any given day. And there's just not really, to me, like anybody steering the ship. I mean, it's like, well, what should we do? Well, I don't know. Call the comm center. Well, I mean, again, no disrespect to the comm center, but where are they in the org chart? Are they telling me what to do, or are they asking me to do this? And I'm not necessarily even speaking about like weather decisions. It's the goofy stuff that comes up every once in
The
a while.
one-offs.
Yes.
The maybe, hey, your flight medic doesn't want to relocate right now at 4 a.m. and we don't have a policy for this, right? You remember that? Obviously, that was the big question. Well, who are you going to call? Are you going to go home sick? Are you going to stay here? Are we going on scene flights? Are we doing this? I don't know, man. I'm going to bed. That's what I'll do, and then I'll just take the next one. I was like, but if we finally whittled it down to the fact that I had to call somebody at 4 a.m. to try to explain my stance, and that only person was our program manager.
And you
Okay,
woke him
well,
up.
guess what? No, he didn't answer his phone at 3 in the
Right.
morning.
Right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Okay, so the point of that story is we have a policy in place now. Now, did the issue get solved? Well, as us three adults inside that trailer, we made some decisions, right? I think I just ultimately got in the goddamn helicopter, even though I didn't want to. Right? Like, I think that was the decision because everybody kept badgering me until I called somebody to tell somebody something. When I felt like all I had to do was tell you and my partner that I'm not getting in the helicopter, and we were okay with it, right? So that in itself is a one-off, and that's probably a really good example of where, hey, I need some guidance in this situation. Well, now we have a timeout policy. So if I ever get in that position again, I am free to say, listen, I am too tired to go. I'm not going. Please take us out of service, right? And so would that policy have came about had we had somebody on duty that night to just say, listen, I get it tonight, go ahead and go to bed? Like would it have worked the same the next night for a different crew? Maybe with a different supervisor. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is
Sure.
like,
Sure.
can you standardize these one-offs into? I don't believe in policing things to death because now you have to play inside those rules, and we all understand that we get outside the lines every now and then, right? We don't really color real perfectly inside the lines in our job, but would it be standardized across the board? I guess I don't know. I think that you make a great point, and I think that there's value in it to make you obviously found success in it, and for whatever short time you implemented this thing. Um, so it's probably worth looking into and worth continuing to have conversations about.
I just think it comes down to and I do think it would be consistent. If you whatever you let's just say, for example, you call them chief flight nurses. So you have 3 chief flight nurses that are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and those are the go-to when you have these one-offs. Sure, you might get some differences between those 3 chief flight nurses, but overall you kind of know what you're going to expect. And I just think
Yeah.
I just look at it like I draw a lot of parallels with the fire department. You have 7 rigs, but you have 1 battalion chief, and they're in charge of those 7 rigs during that day. And again, I think you have, in terms of the money and the equipment and the payroll that are on duty, and you guys are a decent sized program. It's just ultimately it's kind of who's going to decide, and then it's that accountability factor, right? So now if aircraft 3 calls the chief flight nurse and says, hey, why isn't aircraft 2? Well, don't worry about that. I need you to go on the flight. If you can do the flight, you're going to go on the flight. Now, you may not be happy about that, but ultimately you have someone that spoke to you about it. You have accountability and you have consistency. And I think, ultimately, you may not be happy about it, but that's
Sure.
tough, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
tough
no,
ultimately. But versus well, they don't think it makes sense, so they're not going to do it. Well, maybe I'm a little more gung ho, and I'm like, well, I can do it, so I'm going to do it. Well, now my crew's unhappy with me. Now they're asking me. We've all been there. Hey, why isn't X doing it? I don't know. They just told me. They just asked me to go on the flight, and so you and I have talked about it. Weather's good. I'm good. Aircraft's good. How do you want me to say no? Like, do you want me to say yes?
Sure.
You didn't manage your risk. All you did was move your risk to somebody else. I don't know.
Well said. Yeah, you just place the risk on somebody else, basically.
Yeah, I loved, like I said, that 6 month time frame where we had, and at the time we were actually in the same building, so I could just walk over to them as a pilot and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm thinking. What do you want me to do? You want me to do it, or you want me to attempt it or not attempt it? Nope, just stop. It's like, oh, cool, done. That person told me no, and I just a lot better than calling somebody on the phone and waking them up and, hey,
oh, for sure,
me again.
What time is it where you're at? Noon?
Yep, noon. Yeah.
Man, you're just getting about your day. Well, listen,
Yep.
It's already 2:00 here. Sounds like the softball games are on schedule, which means everybody's going to be getting their game faces on around here a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to see what I can clip out in that, like the beginning part of it where you told me how to troubleshoot my audio. Like, I think if somebody's driving down the road and they listen to 8 minutes of that, they're going to be like, listen, I don't want any part of this today.
Right.
And they're not going to listen to the other 110 minutes of it. So I'll figure out what to do about that.
Yeah.
But I think this has opened up a lot of windows. I think this is great. Now that we figured out we can do it, there was zero echo through the whole thing. We can just make short little shows after this, and if you're down with that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I have an interest in it for sure. So I don't want to like talk too much, or so it's it's a learning. This is only number 1 for me. So
Sure. Well, every day. I mean, this is what 53 for me, and everyone gets a little. I think I'm trying to. We should get better and get more efficient and more. One of the big things they tell you on the how to make your podcast successful is to do video, which I think is terrible. Like, I don't ever sit down and watch two guys talk.
Sure.
Like, especially for 2 hours, I'll listen to two guys talk on my way to work. But I mean, the data doesn't lie. Like, shows that have video and faces and things like that do better than those shows that just have audio. So, do better is relative. I don't know what better I want, but I'm gonna try it and and see what happens. I couldn't imagine a more prettier face to put on the maiden episode. Look at that guy.
Yeah, I would have at least combed my hair or something, but I just got it cut, so it's not a big deal, But
right, you paid for that, huh?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What? Just out of curiosity, what's the going rate for haircuts where you live?
$35.
Jeez, oh Pete.
Yeah. Yep.
$35.
Yep. You know what I paid for gas?
Tip them?
What's that?
You got to tip them?
Oh yeah. So it ends up being, I think, $42.50. I think is what I end up. Yeah, $42.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine, man.
Yeah. And I just paid.
How much
gas is $4.85. I just paid $4.85 last night.
A gallon.
A gallon. Yeah. We don't use liters out here or anything. It's Yeah. No, that's premium. I think regular is I think it was $4.16 for regular. But yeah, it's crazy. And it's only going to go up.
All right, man. Things are getting crazy on here. I'm going to hit the stop button and then just stay on here real quick. I want to make sure that we send each other off the right way here in a second.
Yeah,
all right,
for sure.
Thanks for watching. Work hard, be kind. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Shift Change Podcast. I need to ask if you would leave a rating. I think that it helps people who are new to the podcast find it quicker. It doesn't do me any good, but it does help other people that are looking for the Shift Change Podcast on Spotify or Apple. It just comes up quicker the more ratings that you give it. Whether you give it a 2 or a 5, it doesn't make a difference. It just helps other people. If you need to get a hold of me, contact me via my email, the show email, which is talkshiftchange@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Instagram at talk.shiftchange. At talk.shiftchange on Instagram. As always, thanks for listening. I could not have imagined how well this podcast has been received. So, as always, I appreciate it. Work hard, be kind.